Hi everybody, and welcome to the Grand's online channel. My name's Sean Conboy. I'm an architectural interior photographer. Been taking interior photographs to the Grand for many years. The team have asked me to do another talk. This time he'd asked me to talk about some of the architectural interior photographs I've taken of the Grand and my sort of process of how to compose those sort of pictures and go through them in that way. Okay. Again, like the other video, at the end of it, if you have any questions or comments or shares, please feel free to do that on the various platforms. So the first image we're going to look at here was taken up in the Gods of the Grand Theatre, which is the very top level, which is only used very, very infrequently for performances these days. So I think that's the first thing we could probably say. It's finding an unusual viewpoint to take your photograph from. Not just necessarily from a quirky angle, which is a great thing to do, but just getting yourself into a different position to take that particular photograph. So not everybody gets into the Gods area, and in this photograph we've done that, which again is giving us a viewpoint that people might not be used to seeing the theatre from. And basically what I'm trying to achieve here in this particular image, in this composition, is to layer the picture. Because remember, with a photograph, an image, it's two-dimensional. It's either being viewed as a print or on a screen or on a TV screen, and the world's three-dimensional. So we're trying to make something that's two-dimensional appear three-dimensional by putting depth into the picture, and layering in composition can be a real aid in adding depth to an image. So in this picture on the right hand side, if you look at the image on the right, we've got the beautiful figurine which is helping to hold up the ceiling of the Grand Theatre. Got this beautiful typical Matcham gilt detail around her, these lovely swirls, the golds of that plasterwork coupled with the pale plaster of the figurines, absolutely beautiful. So this is a really distinctive feature, and I've put this in the foreground of the picture. Okay, so this is quite powerful. When you look at the figurine behind, it's quite small. Now those figurines are not far off the same size, but because of the way that I've composed this with the lens, you know, we talked in the other film about lens choice, and this particular picture is taken on what we call a wide-ish lens. If we're talking on a full-frame DSLR camera, the sort of camera I'm filming on now, this would be about a 30 to 32mm lens. And because it's a wide-ish lens, we've got this perspective which I talked about in the other video. So the figurine in the foreground appears quite a bit bigger than the figurine behind, so it's creating depth. And as you see, your eye flicks from the first figurine, that part, you study that, then it flings into the second figurine. So it's making your eye flow through the photograph. You then come across, when you see that, you come across to the picture on the wall next to the proscenium arch, the beautiful painted picture. And then your eye comes right across to the proscenium arch itself and the blue of the proscenium arch. And then I think with that blue it helps you flick up into the ceiling, where you see the beautiful painted pictures actually in the ceiling of the Grand, and the way the light's hitting the ceiling and creating that curve, which again is creating some depth. And as you follow through, you go through to the pale plaster work here on the left hand side, which is actually the beginning of the roses which hold the two chandeliers. So you can see how all those elements are flowing together within the composition. So if you're taking your photographs, whether it be architectural interior photography, whether it be landscape photography or other areas of photography, it's trying to create a layer through the picture, okay, to create depth through the image, which can work really well. Now we'll look at another picture, this next photograph, which is of a similar area, and as you can see from the first picture, this is only a small part of the picture that we've just looked at. But here, again, going back to the first video about lenses, I've used more a normal focal length of lens, and I've also got in quite close. This is a bit more like what the human eye might see. So I'm isolating parts of the theatre to create this sort of composition. So again, you've got the beautiful cherubs in the bottom right corner there, a little bit close to the lens first thing, then you flick up to the beautiful painting now. So the painting's now, because we're a lot closer, it's got a lot more drama, creating that element. And then as your eye flicks across the picture to the left, you've got the proscenium arch, the very deep blue of the curtains. So you can see how the different elements of the picture are holding together. Even though there's not quite as much depth in this picture, there's not as much depth space because it's a flatter composition, it shows how your eye is flowing through the photograph. So it's thinking of those compositional elements. And there's no fixed and fast rules in composition. There is, you know, the rule of thirds and things like that you hear about, but don't be frightened to experiment, because you will bring your creativity into the picture, and that's really important. That's unique to you, the way you see the picture. It's like when we run the workshops at the Grand, the photo workshops, every workshop we do, at the end of the day when we look at the photographs, we always see, somebody always captures something in a way we've not seen before, which is brilliant. Everybody's got their own take on things, and I find that really quite exciting thing about doing the workshops and seeing that. And then the next image, this is a wide pitch. This is taken on a much wider lens now. Unlike the first image, this is quite a wide angle lens. This is probably on a full frame DSLR equivalent to a 20mm lens. And here we've used the symmetry of the architecture in the theatre. And symmetry, like in nature, you look at all nature, plants, insects, whatever it may be, there is symmetry, really does suit the eye. We like to view symmetrical things. And Matcham here in his design of the theatre has gone for a very symmetrical design, and when you catch it that way, and we've captured that, so right down the middle, so the symmetry of the two boxes, the paintings, the proscenium arches, the chandeliers, the ceiling. So it's a flatter composition because we're further back. We can't create quite the same depth we did in the first picture, but we've got really nice symmetry working through that. And then this particular shot here, this is what I call a real leading line sort of drama shot. We've again used a wide lens, not a super wide lens, maybe in this case on a full frame DSLR about a 24-25mm lens. And we've got in very close to the plasterwork around the light fitting. Okay, obviously again talking about unusual viewpoints, and I know I've gone to the extreme, I've got some very tall step ladders to get me and my camera up on a level with that part of the theatre. But it's creating that line and how it sweeps through the image from the front here of the cherubs right through to the background and the chairs in the background. So again, don't be frightened to move yourself and your camera around whatever you're photographing. Get in close, come back, try the different lenses and the different compositions. And here we've used the lines, these lovely sweeping lines of the dress circle and the circle above, and part of Matcham's design in the Grand Theatre to great effect. They're drawing your eye through the space, so it makes quite a dramatic, quite an exciting composition, and again maybe makes people study a part of the theatre they've maybe haven't looked at it in that particular way. You know, without composing it that way, you'll never see those cherubs quite like that. The beautiful detail in the foreground here of all the plasterwork is really coming to life. Obviously, the light again is added, there's some light added to enhance that. But you know, you don't need the light, you can also do it with the composition. Okay. And here we have, when you come into box office, we said before about viewpoints. How many times have we all walked into the box office to buy tickets at the Grand Theatre? Maybe sometimes we've not even looked up. And by looking up, what do you get? This amazing ceiling and the staircase here and an amazing view. Such beautiful detail. That's why I love photographing the Grand. There's just so many things to find there. But the key thing here is viewpoint. Again, we've used a wide, probably about a 24-25mm lens on a full frame DSLR type camera, sort of focal length, so it's quite wide, which has enabled us to get this lovely staircase area and all the detail of the balustrade, the beautiful detail in the ceiling, the beautiful detail in the windows there to the bottom of the image. I mean, I just think that's a lovely part of the theatre that's not always seen. And the great use of colour that Matcham used. The pale plasterwork and the gilt coming off it, and the gilt of the staircase balustrade detail, absolutely beautiful. And see how in this picture I've used the staircase, the shape of the staircase and the plasterwork just below it to frame the picture, coupled with the window at the bottom. So it's like a frame. So again, by framing it that way, a bit like the first picture, we've created the depth which can take your eye right through the picture. It's a really interesting part of the theatre. So a few images we've talked through, a few ideas to work. You play around with some ideas. Look guys, if you get some great pictures, please feel free to share them with us. You know, what you're doing at home, bring them through, share them, and we can look at them and maybe do a little critique on them, I don't know. But please feel free to get stuff across to us in different ways. Anyway, I hope you're all coping with the isolation. It's not easy, I'm sure, for any of us. But it's also, shouldn't say it's an opportunity because it's probably not the right thing to say, but it's a time for us to maybe try other things. It's forcing us to do other things, and maybe this will get you to, it's a chance to play around a little bit more with your photography in the spaces that you're living in, your own home, your own garden or whatever. Anyway, look forward to speaking again. Thank you. Bye bye.